Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy when nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world. He was among us in every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find, with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts, together we can grow a better place, with love in us all. And you will find, together we can save it all. And you will find a place called home, where
On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Oh, another Thursday.
Yes, indeed. Coming right at you.
Welcome back.
Yes, indeed.
And this might be the last one at this place, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
Bringing it all to the new studio.
Yeah, my kitty's excited.
Nice.
He's like, Glenn got a new place.
We'll be showing the kitty around next time. And over here, we got the spot, another chair in the corner. The chair to keep warm and then the chair for the kitty, right? Got to have two.
Yep. And for tonight, an interesting topic that we sometimes talk about in the back a lot. And go figure, Miss Crystal actually got me fired up with this one when she put this out this week about artist names and what's in a name, and more importantly, in this discussion, changing your name. Something that I deal with a lot of artists who seem to be doing this, where like, oh, I need to change my name in order to get bigger because this name's not working. And sometimes it's not the name,
and I can see where, sometimes a fresh start would be a good thing. And also I can see where you would be basically cutting off, your previous fan base from where you are now, so there's that aspect of it too. Do you want to start completely over and build from nothing? Do you want to be associated to the old name, or do you need a completely fresh break? That whole thing.
Yeah. I'm kind of on both sides of this fence. Multiple names, if it's like somebody being in two different bands. And
if they're vastly different styles, I can see why you'd want a separate identity for each, probably,
Yeah. Now, if you're just an artist, independent individual artist, and you go changing your name, there, I have a tougher time thinking that's a good idea, because it's about branding. And
exactly.
If you keep going and changing your brand, it makes it real hard to actually brand yourself.
Yeah. Again, you want to try to bring in from as many sources as you can and build it all into one place. Like the kind of idea of something like Linktree, of having everything come to one place to all go out from there. So getting it all into that one place is the important part.
Yeah, I think a good manager or an agent would try to shy away from like name changing, unless they really felt like, oh, that's a stupid name and this name would be better representing you. Then sometimes there might be a case for it. But if you've already established that name, like John Cougar had a tough time for a couple of years. Everybody was like, that's not the Jack and Diane guy. It's not his name.
Yeah. But then again, he also did it with a transition period, right? He has, he was, John Cougar, and then John Cougar Mellencamp, and then Mellencamp, right? So like he did cover all three spots in there.
Yeah. And it's understandable why he wanted to do that, and why initially he went with John Cougar. Rocker name sounds much cooler, and like sometimes that is the strategy, but I like that he felt like his name was important and said, you know, I don't want to be John Cougar. I am John Mellencamp.
Yeah, exactly. And he wanted, once he got established essentially and felt that he would be able to, bring the established fan base from Cougar over to Mellencamp, he figured he'd be able to do that. Use the transition period with both names to kind of make it work. In that case, it worked, but there's not a lot of other cases where that worked out well, for an artist, really, right? I mean, we do have somebody who changed their name to a sign at one point, right? So.
Yeah, and again for a good reason. The studio and the record company wasn't letting him do what he wanted to do, so he was like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it as a sign, and you can kiss my ass.
Exactly.
So I respect him for that.
Mm-hmm.
I was still conflicted though. Like, how do I search for you on YouTube with a sign that doesn't exist on this keyboard?
And the artist formerly known as,
All right, let's take a look at what we're going to be looking at tonight.
All
The
right.
Shhh I.T cave. I need to be looking at it. There we go. So like I said, Crystal kind of like got this idea in my head because I have been talking with some in the Zoom about this kind of situation. Some of them are trying to come up with a name, whether it's for their artist name, whether it's for their band name, or in some cases, album and song titles. And all this discussion tonight's going to actually fit in any one of those situations.
And we do know some artists who actually start from a song title or an album title and actually work their way into the song and the lyrics and all that from there. Like that could be the entry point. Other cases, it's just a melody was floating around and it sprouted from there. Other cases, it's the progression. It can start anywhere, but it's kind of neat to like follow someone's creative process through that whole lineup.
Yeah, and to have like an idea about what you're trying to go for, because some of these suggestions you'll see they're like, go use a random name generator, which okay, maybe that'll give you some ideas, but at the same time, if you're trying to hit a specific target, I don't want like a random name generator coming up with my name.
What I do like about the random name generator idea, though, is that if you're completely, stuck, like you're not coming up with it, you got the blank page syndrome, right? Like you're staring at the blank page trying to write a story, and it's like you're about to write, it was a dark night, and you're like, no, not that, and like you can't even get the first word on the page, right? Like the random name generator can actually, give you some ideas that are terrible, and you could be like, okay, screw that. Oh, I like that sort of. And you modify one of these suggestions it gives you, kind of like the song starter that we talked about at different times. Yeah. You want to get started with a song, you can do you just hit random, and it gives you, a progression, some kind of a melody, something to start with,
Yeah, like those lyric generators.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't think about what to sing about. Hey, lyric generator, give me something to sing about.
But at the same time, like a lot of people just can come up with an idea or just follow some random thing. And again, you could just, the easiest way to me is just to make up a character, just you think about a character in a situation and you can just expand on that. It's your creative license, go nuts. It can be any story you want. You write it yourself. So go down that road. And it's about how you describe this thing though. Cause it's not about telling the story like, this person went here, this person did that. Like it gets a little bit too, you're explaining it too much, over explaining. You want to set out the scene, talk about things, very minor details, but in a very expressive way, stuff like that.
Yeah. So Crystal is actually going to talk about a situation where what happens when two bands have the same name, and the Beatles versus Beatles or the Who
or the Beatless. Yeah.
So she's going to talk about that kind of situation where, like, if you're sharing a name with other bands or other artists, what do you do? How do you deal with it? Do you change your name or do you fight for that name?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's the question, and do you want to be associated with that other band, as far as that goes,
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to get her perspective on this kind of legal situation and how does it work when there's two Beatles.
Yeah, exactly.
And then to get into some of the approaches, well, and actually on this one, it's kind of an extension. Another discussion that I have in the Zoom, Zigzag Production Studio asks, "Do you have to use your real name as your songwriter name?" And again, go back to the John Mellencamp situation, and it, there are times where um, the artist wants to be able to have a private life. Like nobody knows like Lady Gaga's real name. I mean, they do if they go look, but at the same time, most of the fans just know her as Lady Gaga. And that probably helps her to like at least have a somewhat normal life when she's on the street.
Exactly. And in some cases, some artists actually do whole costume things where you wouldn't recognize them anyway. If they were just themselves on the street versus who they are on stage.
You probably wouldn't recognize Lady Gaga if you ran into her on the street.
Exactly.
But
depending on how they're carrying themselves and who they're with, that's usually the main tell.
Yeah. I thought this was a good extension to what she's talking about, and then to lead into how to choose a music artist band name the right way. And it's all about stage name marketing. What we're talking about tonight, Muse Formation, Jesse Cannon, Freshy Channel, new one to our list, and this is where like what we're going to be talking about. Really, the rubber hits the road here.
All right.
And then Damian Keys, we've been to this channel for different advice on different nights on promoting yourself, and great advice he gives for all parts of the music business. And here he's going to talk about how to trademark your band name and logo. And this is where the branding starts to become important.
Gotta brand yourself for sure.
Yeah. And then for the last one, another freshie, links. I wanted to add this one because of that discussion of changing your name when you do have an established name, and what happens when you do that. What's the process? What are the consequences of doing so? And this one is, if you want to change your artist name, here's advice from someone who did.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's important to at least hear from somebody who has done it, and whether they were happy with the results afterwards.
Exactly. A use case.
Looking at this chart, I'd say she was happy.
Nice.
But let's start with Crystal and see about like when there's more than one artist out there, one band using the same names, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah. And then there's even the whole issue beyond that of artists with names that sound like another band. So like, it might be a totally innocent thing where it's a totally unique name, but it sounds enough like another band that it, it gives that confusion too.
Yeah. And I think my biggest concern would be is if people confuse like the two bands as the same one. And if the other band doesn't represent the way that you want to represent with that name, then you got to kind of decide, like, is it worth keeping this name?
Yeah. And in a lot of cases, you would think that, a band name would be kind of, in a certain style, let's say, or in a certain genre. Like you're not going to have the same name for a, let's say, death metal band that you're going to have for like a classic rock band. That it's probably something that would fit the genre better, right? So if your band was a death metal band and it was a name that it shared with someone else, it would probably also be another, death metal or similar type of band,
And if you're not a death metal band and people are thinking you are, then that can cause problems too.
Right.
So let's see what advice Crystal has here on how to deal with this. This one's coming from @Top Music Attorney, although she does have a bunch of sites. I got them in the description. Delgado, here we go. More. Delgado Entertainment Law, and Miss Crystal Live, great channel for her music. And this one's at Top Music Attorney, where all of these topics that we're always talking about and tackling, man, she is good.
Absolutely.
And for this one, this scenario, there are those out there running into it.
Can you lose your artist name if another artist comes along that ends up being bigger, more famous than you? You know, historically, with some of the most famous bands, we've seen things like bands and artists changing their names because either they ran into a dispute, right? They got involved in some kind of heated litigation. This brings to mind Linkin Park. Linkin Park originally started as Zero and then evolved into Hybrid Theory, but because there was already a hybrid, ended up again changing the name to Linkin Park. Blink 182, originally they called themselves just Blink. And there was another established group that went by Blink, so then they added the 182. In recent years, Lady A versus Lady Antebellum, the country group formerly known as Lady Antebellum, changed their name to Lady A. And, you know, they had done that after receiving criticism about antebellum, having to do with the slavery era association. But turns out Lady A was a well-established, like multi-decade blues singer. So that erupted into countersuits, everyone suing each other, and then they eventually settled. Now, where I want to start with this is for your artist name, for your band, for your brand, your trademark. Here's the two most important things that come to my mind whenever I am considering whether we have a problem. The first is who used it first. Oftentimes, you guys might pop onto, let's say, Spotify, and you'll see that there are other bands, there are other artists who have the same name as you or a similar name as you. So you want to go, who used it first? So please, you know, take that step. You can stalk each other out on Instagram. And second, where is that person using it? Because it makes a difference. If you are using your trademark in the United States and then you find someone who is in the UK, it matters on whether you can enforce who has the right, because each country has its own trademark registration database. That brings us to a new, recently announced heated battle between FKA Twigs and a separate duo, The Twigs. Now, the headline is indie duo The Twigs sues FKA Twigs, seeking to ban her from performing under her name. I went digging with the complaint and the answer, and I actually found something that was kind of buried, and I think it's really important to this overall analysis. I'm really curious what you guys think. In the complaint, which was filed in the Southern District of New York, FKA Twigs is seeking court declaration that her name does not infringe the trademark rights of the American indie duo pops, The Twigs. Again, remember I said one of the important pieces of this is who used it first? Because in this case, the bigger name, the bigger star is FKA Twigs. But the duo, The Twigs, actually have been using it since 1996. So they've been using it for a whole lot longer. In the complaint, what FKA Twigs is asking for, she goes, hey, court, I need you to declare that it's okay for me to use my name and they can't come and make a problem for me, because guess what? They've already been making a problem for me for a very long time, claiming that the Twigs actually already sued her. So apparently in 2014, the Twigs had filed asking the court to stop FKA Twigs from using the trademark and saying, we think that we're going to be harmed and she is causing confusion. What happened is that they ended up voluntarily pull their complaint out of the court system. We're like, that's weird. Why did they do that? Well, they did. Okay, so they just kind of disappeared. So over the course of the following, decade and some change, FKA Twigs then continued to become a huge success. And actually, why don't we take a quick peek at what FKA Twigs filed now recently. In 2026, FKA Twigs, Talia Barnett is filing, or suing, I should say, the duo. Barnett's use of the registration of the trademark FKA Twigs does not infringe, right? So that's the claim here. And over the last 10 years has become, right, a Grammy Award-winning recording, performing artist, model, actor, doing all kinds of huge things with huge numbers, right? 325 million views, 2.6 million followers on Instagram, covers of very popular magazines. Comparatively, the duo, the American Twin Sisters, and musicians who comprise the pop band, The Twigs, As of the date of filing the complaint, they have 67 subscribers, they have 19,000 views on YouTube, 700 followers on Instagram, and 25 monthly listeners on Spotify. So this is where the first piece of the rub kind of comes in. And this was with Lady Antebellum, right? Lady 8, and their whole dispute. It's, well, if someone is using a trademark that is the same or is confusingly similar for a lot longer than you, but then you come along and you blow them out of the water because you're more famous and more people know about you, does that trump the original user? So in kind of making that comparison, right, that was the point that they're saying. They're going, there's a lot of goodwill that FKA Twigs has developed. She's been working really hard on her career and people know her by that trademark. Now, there were some other things that came out. Apparently, FKA Twigs had offered what's called a coexistence agreement. So to say, we will kind of recognizing, right, that they seem to have a priority claim, right, but they've been using it longer. So they kind of use that in their answer. But the bigger argument is this thing called reverse confusion, saying if you, FKA Twigs, have a way bigger social media presence, you have millions of streams on Spotify, and we don't, you're causing reverse confusion because actually more people now associate the word Twigs with you and not us. And so if they see us, they're going to think we are the infringers. So that's why saying that they're bringing this claim again. But again, it's just kind of like, what happened? Why did you take a little break for a decade? Now, the thing that I dug up that I thought was interesting was a letter that the duo, the Twigs, sent to FKA Twigs and what they had to say. This letter is back from May of 2024, but the same issue was addressed again in an October 1, 2025 letter. And the issue is FKA Twigs appeared before the United States Senate Subcommittee on Intellectual Property and not only represented herself as the public as Twigs, but also indicated that she intends to release an artificial intelligence version of herself under the name AI Twigs. If someone's going to sit on their trademark rights and they're not going to do anything about it, that matters. Courts will look at that and say, you didn't enforce your trademark, you didn't protect your trademark, you don't get to do it now when someone else has, again, invested a lot into building up their own trademark. Now, arguably, the new thing that has happened, maybe that has spawned all of this, is that they go, if FKA Twigs is going to have an AI Twigs version, then we have a new concern about real market confusion. But back to the main question here. We go, at the end of the day, these facts have to do with this particular situation. But again, back to a lot of you on Spotify and YouTube, you are using the same name, similar names, and someone is going to be the winner on who gets to have exclusivity, who gets to claim that they are the only ones that should be using that trademark. And even just this week, the trip-hop duo Lamb just announced a post to their fans just saying, hey, we're aware that there's confusion happening because there's a new artist named Lamb on streaming platforms. And a key fact here that is worth mentioning is that FKA is formerly known as, right, to the extent that you are formerly known as Twigs, you've been aware of the Twigs for a very long time. You have communicated with the lawyers. You have tried to work out a coexistence agreement, possibly even offered money. This matters in the overall analysis. But another thing that comes up all the time in bands is someone leaves the band and they think they came up with the name, they were a part of it. And so the 11th Circuit in particular has looked at this, and the analysis usually, to oversimplify it, is if you leave the band often gets to keep the name. So here's your solution. For your trademarks, especially if you're collaborating with someone, have an agreement, have something in writing that says, what have you guys agreed to? Who owns the trademark? If someone leaves the band, what are you going to do about it? And that is the best way to protect yourself. I'm top music attorney, Miss Crystal.
Man, I love that song she goes out with, Say to Me. That has been ringing in my head for months.
Nice. It sounded kind of like the brand prenup going on there, and the band prenup. It's being like, everybody signed, like, we're all agreeing that it's all ours, and if any of us leave, it's still ours,
Yeah, and mentioning that at the end there about that situation when like, I'm the one who came up with the band name and I'm no longer in this band. I'm taking the name with me. The typical scenario is the band keeps the name. The one unusual court case, Queensryche, is an example of like this judge did like King Solomon style and said, I'm cutting this band baby in half and you're still Queensryche. And Tate, you can be Queensryche too, which is confusing as hell.
Yep.
Now it's like Jeff Tate's Queensryche. It's not the same. And it has caused a lot of confusion between the two bands, but they're sticking to their names there.
Yeah. And again, that's, kind of shared custody of the built up presence that they had to that time, where they can both continue to ride on that, and whatever direction they each take it. But it was interesting also about the whole eclipsing factor where, if someone's running with a certain name and somebody else, had been running with it longer, but then eventually comes in eclipses or whichever way it works out. Like, the one becomes way more popular, even though the other was more of a household name first, let's say.
Legally, it shouldn't be a popularity contest, but understandably, and the mentioning of whether the artist is continuing to be active with the name or they're just sitting on it, all good points that if you're a judge in this kind of situation, case by case, you kind of have to really look at the details to come up with what's going to be a fair decision.
Yeah. And some of those details are hints at how you can help to, move things in your favor in terms of if you are trying to move forward and retain a name and all of that, doing all of these things, they're all steps in the right direction. You're checking the boxes of things that will be looked at by, or could be, factored into the decision of the people making the decision.
I think when it gets to trademark situations and sometimes you've got these generic words that like twigs, I mean, it's a generic word. It's not really an identifier in itself. And some names with bands can be like generic when you're actually talking about someone's actual name.
Right.
It gets even trickier. and if your name's John Smith and you want to go out there as John Smith, you're going to run into a lot of other John Smiths out there.
Or the Smiths. Yeah, same.
Yeah, I think the Smiths did brand themselves as the official The Smiths.
Sure. But, doesn't mean you can't have multiple ones. That's where coexistence can happen. And, in some cases, it might even help, if you're just forming a band, do that research, go out there and see what is out there. And if there is something that uses the name that you really, really, really want, that you're dead set on having, see if they might, whatever coexistence agreement might not even require money. Some bands might, be fine with you doing whatever you're doing and, might be friendly competition. Go ahead, see if you can get bigger than us, whatever.
Yeah. I hope it isn't just a popularity contest because it kind of feels like not right if it's just about that.
See, I think it also depends on where you are and what you're doing with the band too. I mean, like I know several bands in my area that actually go out and play at bars and they play, dozens of shows a year, and there are other bands with the same name. So the question is like, how do they differentiate themselves? And are these other bands out there actually playing? If you put out a poster saying that this band is playing at this location, some people might come thinking it's a different band, but they get there and they see you're there. They're like, wait, you're not that band. Like, yes, we are. Turns out we both are, it could be.
And if you're sharing names like that in the same music scene, that's even more confusing. It's one thing to have a band on like the other side of the planet or across the country, but if you're both playing in the same neighborhood, at that point, somebody's going to need to change their name.
Think about how many cover bands make their name out of, the title of a song that in the style or of an artist that they particularly like, whatever it is, there could be many bands of that name because it is a song title. So it's something that, definitely, conjures
Thunderstruck.
That was the band that I was talking about.
That's the kind of name that I would imagine a bunch of AC/DC want to use.
Yeah. And actually the AC/DC band that I work with called Thunderstruck, they'll, they're with the guitar pick in the logo on Facebook or whatever. Like they have a way of like differentiating from others so that you can find them and find their schedule and see where they're playing.
Yeah, we're the real Thunderstruck.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing is if you're going out to see them, in this area, that's probably who you're going to see. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any of the others around because I usually am just, I'm out working when I'm with those guys. So.
And in that kind of situation, if you are having to share those names on the internet, and that's why you'll see the occasional at the real something, and it becomes a necessity for those who really want to differentiate themselves from the ones who got the other at.
Exactly.
But this one was at Top Music Attorney, our favorite music lawyer on the internet. And
yes, indeed.
Like I said, she kind of triggered this choice this week for this topic, because when I saw that, I was like, oh man, I understand that situation, and I'm constantly talking with artists on here about what are you going to call yourself, and how are you going to call yourself that across the platforms.
And are you going to keep a strict separation about your private identity from your public identity?
Yep. That's another one we have had in the back. Thank you, Crystal. Always great advice.
Indeed.
And here we got a freshie channel, Zigzag Production Studio. At Zigzag Production Studio. And post videos about music production. Hey, perfect for us. Music marketing and promotion. And he's got free VST and plugin reviews. I'll be back for those too.
Nice.
But here, the question he asks here is one that I've had debates with different artists about, do you want to be known as this, or do you want to be known as you? And there's pluses and minuses to both choices.
Yeah. And even beyond that, some people, when they're on stage, they have a stage persona, they have a character that they're playing when they're on stage. And sometimes it's just, them being more, being louder, and, they're wearing sunglasses. So they're just being more like the star in the spotlight. Right. But in some cases, it's an entirely different personality when they're on stage, and, when they change into character.
In some cases, they rename themselves to Gene Simmons and wear makeup. How's that for double privacy?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I thought he was smart doing that.
Yeah. We've seen a couple other bands like that where they actually, wore some kind of a costume or outfit where it hides their identity. So you may know who they are, but you don't know who they are.
I don't know who the hell's under those Guar masks.
Even they don't know.
But let's see what Zigzag Production Studios says about whether you should or shouldn't use your real name for your stage name.
Good stuff to think about.
On both sides.
Yep.
Do you have to use your real name as your songwriter name when releasing music? This is a bit tricky. I'm going to say that right in the beginning of this video. I hate YouTubers that ramble on. I get right to the point in all my videos. But this is not a clear-cut answer. But this is what I'm going to say as a short answer. Then I'll get into the longer answer. Short answer, as far as I could find or see, there's not any crazy legal thing saying if you don't use your real name as your songwriter name, someone's going to go after you. But here's a big thing I say to everybody, and I'm saying it on this video. You should absolutely use your real name as your songwriter name when releasing music. Now let me get into the long answer, because things get very tricky and technical here, and I am going to have to give some definitions, right? Because I don't know what it is. For years, I've gotten crazy amounts of DMs, messages, comments about releasing music, whether it's on DistroKid or another platform. I've done all these videos about releasing music. This is a question, and I don't know why, but in the past month or so, I've gotten a lot, almost out of nowhere for some reason. Now, to give some definitions, and this is important to explain very, very clear-cut and very dry. An artist name is the name that you release music under. That is your artist name. So when someone goes to Spotify, for example, they see your artist name. That's the name of the artist that you're releasing music under that they're listening to. A songwriter name is kind of a name that happens well on behind the scenes that says, this is the person who created it. think of it, and I try to think of like a good example or an analogy for this. Think of this. Think of someone, like, say, if you start a company, right? And you have, you know, Joe Schmo's protein powder, right? It's Joe Schmo's protein powder. But then, let's say your real name isn't Joe Schmo. That's just the company name. Your real name is Bob Mike Smith, right? Two very different things. The company's name is Joe Schmo's protein powder, but the CEO is Bob Mike Smith. Now, some people do the exact same where they have it as both the same. Other people are different. Now, bring this now a step further to the music world. For most people, I find it's a bit different. Now, for me personally, in case you're curious, my artist name, the name I release music under is Frachero. My real name is Mark Richard Frachero, which I use as my songwriter name. I use my real name, and you should as well, which I'll talk about in a second. I use my real name as my songwriter name. Now, for most artists, though, taking that a step further, they have it different, right? So, for example, most artists, I use this example a lot, like I just did. They, like, say, release music under an alias. So I'll just say Joe Schmo. I'm making things simple. You release music under Joe Schmo. That's your artist name. You're Joe Schmo. But your real, in-person name, your actual real name in real life is Bob Mike Smith. Those are different, right? You release music under Joe Schmo, and your real name is Bob Mike Smith. Joe Schmo is your alias. Any single time you release music, like I said, on DistroKid, which is the main distributor I use, or another one, they're going to ask you two things. Typically one once you get going, but typically two. One is, what's the artist name? What is your artist name? Joe Schmo. But every single time you release music, they also want to know, what is your songwriter name? Your songwriter name and your artist name, like I said earlier, are a bit different. Your artist name is the name you're releasing music under. Your songwriter name is more of the behind the scenes, hidden very deep behind the scenes, just the name of the person who's releasing it. And I have had people say, hey, Mark, you know, I'm trying to keep things secret. I don't want anyone to know I'm behind this project. I do think this is a theory, at least at the time of this video. This is my theory as to why in the past month or two, I've gotten this question a lot. I actually think it's because of AI music. That's my theory, because I think a lot of people now are saying, ooh, I can use an AI music generator, which I've done a bunch of videos about. I can release a song, put it under some random artist name that I make up, or I have AI make it up if I want to even, to get even more meta. But I don't want people to know it's actually me behind it. I just want to release it for fun and see how it does or whatever, right? That's my theory. I don't know though, right? But anyway, I have had a lot of people say, hey, you know, I want to kind of keep this secret. I don't want people to know. Do I have to use my real name as my songwriter name? Now, like I said, on one end, there's not any crazy legal things saying, okay, if you don't use your real name as your songwriter name, we're going to go after you and sue you and do all this kind of stuff. Not really, but you are exposing yourself to a massive amount of potential issues. And this is where I think things get very tricky on this video, which I'm trying to give you, again, the most simple answer I can, if I can. You're exposing yourself to a massive amount of potential issues if you don't use your real name as your songwriter name. Your songwriter name as your real name is kind of like your stamp saying, this is actually me. This is the real me, you know, the real me, and this is my alias. By having both, it allows you to have way more protection and control and rights over your music in case something goes wrong. Another big reason, and this is big, is pros, or performance rights organizations. I've talked about them a lot on this channel. And to oversimplify those, basically you get paid from your music in different ways. One of them being, as we think about it, if someone downloads your song, if they stream it on Spotify, but also any single time your song is performed. I put that in quotation marks because the term performed or performance can get kind of vague, although it sounds simple at first. But let's say if someone streams your song on Spotify, you get performance royalties because in a sense, that song is being performed. Although when you think about performing, most people think about live music, right? But when you play it on Spotify, in a sense, I'm oversimplifying this as best I can, it's also being performed. So you get some royalties from the stream, but you also get some royalties from the performance, and you get those from performance rights organizations. For example, here in America, it's different from country to country. We have pros like ASCAP and BMI, et cetera, et cetera. I personally use Songtrust, like I mentioned before in other videos, that collect rights from pretty much all around the world, and they collect the performance rights from all those different pros from different places around the world, right? So that's what Songtrust does as an example. Now, when I sign up with Songtrust, if I sign up with ASCAP or VMI or another pro, they don't really care as much per se about your artist name. They do. But the bigger thing they care about is your songwriter name, because they're looking into things from a royalty collection perspective, which gets very technical and very tricky. And so if I'm releasing music under Joe Schmo, and my real name, as I put, is Bob Mike Smith, a lot of times on ASCAP, they're going to say, okay, we get your song title, we get maybe the ISRC or the UPC or whatever, but what's the songwriter name? They sometimes don't even care about the artist name. They just want to know the songwriter name, and they connect that songwriter name on ASCAP, for example, to the songwriter name that was listed when that release happened. So, a lot's gonna get kind of tricky, right? And I know I'm kind of going a bit down the rabbit hole, but I have had people basically on this point ask me, one, do I have to use my real name? Like I said, and again, this is all very important. From an intense, aggressive legal perspective, if you use a different name, are you gonna get sued or whatever? Probably not, but I can't say 100%. Just use your real name. It's gonna save you a massive amount of work, because let's say someone tries to steal your song, and you're like, hey, that's me, that's my song. And they're like, well, prove it. Well, for me, it's easy. All my legal documents, my stuff is under my real name, which obviously is all my IDs, my passports, right? It's all connected. But if you make a fake songwriter name and a fake alias, that gets trickier to prove, right? So just use your real name. The second thing now I'm going to touch upon, again, going deeper down the rabbit hole, which again might be a result of AI music, that's my theory, but I might be wrong, is, well, what if you want to say secret? What if you don't want anybody to know? Here's the truth. If you look at different streaming services and different platforms, each one's a little bit different. I will say that. So some provide more information than others. I've mentioned this before when I talked about adding credits on DistroKid, where let's say you're a hip hop artist. You do more of the vocals, but then you have a producer, and you want to give your producer credit. On some platforms, it will give the producer credit right out in front of you. Pretty obvious. It will say, you know, this is the artist, and also they have producer credits to give credits to the producer. Other platforms might hide that and just say the artist's name. It does depend on how many credits or behind-the-scenes stuff a platform is willing to show, and it does depend platform to platform. Is it possible that someone could find out if you're trying to stay secret that it is you? The answer is yes. But the amount of digging that it takes, not saying it's an aggressive amount of digging, because again, it does depend upon the service or the platform, but it can be a good amount, right? Again, it definitely depends on each platform. There's some platforms where the songwriter name is not even listed and it's very difficult to find. Other ones, it might be a bit easier. But even so, if you're trying to stay secret, at the end of the day, I'm going to say this, that yes, is it possible that if you're really trying to keep this hidden, someone might be able to find out it's you through an aggressive amount of Google searching and looking at all these different streaming services and tying things together? Potentially. But the truth is, at the end of the day, well, yes, that might be an issue for you that you want to stay secret. You absolutely, though, have to use your real name as your songwriter name. It just, the amount of things it's going to save you, and I know this video is kind of going on a little bit longer than I expected, but like, to try to explain things in the best possible manner so you know exactly what's going on, it's going to save you a whirlwind of potential issues in the future. Whether it comes to legal stuff potentially happening, whether it comes to pros and performance rights organizations collecting the right royalties, whether it's things being disconnected from, let's say, your real name to then your songwriter name to now your alias because you decided to use a different songwriter name, things can just get out of control very fast. So basically, to sum up this entire video, just use your real name as your songwriter name.
There you go.
I agree with this message.
Yes, I approve of this message as well.
Yeah, and it is on the like credit side when you are talking royalties and things like that, where your actual identity name is kind of important. And the situations he mentions there where somebody might, like if they're doing AI stuff and they want to disassociate their identity from whatever they're trying to put out there, if you feel like you have to hide yourself that way because of what you're releasing, you should ask yourself, why are you even releasing this?
Well, another thing to look at is the fact that, you know, anything that's going to be earning you money is a tax implication, right? And having your real name on it is something that you should do. I mean, if you're planning to make actual real money with music, you should be planning to pay actual real taxes on the money that you make from music. I mean, just as a general principle of life, right? So, it's good to have it in your name so that you can prove where it came from, and you'll be able to prove where the income, as the income goes up, you go, yeah, that's where it came from.
Yeah. And it one of the things he mentioned about pseudonyms, writers do this all the time. Stephen King, I think, had a couple of them just to differentiate types of work so that he could go write something that wasn't horror and like it just need to get out of this box for a little while.
Yep.
Garth Brooks tried to do it. It didn't work very well in the 90s, but sometimes if you really want to do something different and you don't want to confuse your fans over here, uh, or you are making different bands. My punk rock identity is not the same as my jazz.
Yeah. Or you go Hasselhoff and you go to Germany.
He will always be the Hoff in Germany.
Exactly.
But I think that's great advice that he gave there at Zigzag Production Studio. Great consideration to at least have before you go putting out your first song distribution, and how you identify yourself to those pros that he's talking about. Think about the complications if you're not being straightforward about who you are, at least for the credits and for the royalties.
And go back through that mental exercise of the John Cougar and Mellencamp thing and think about changing your name 3 times and having to go through the process of fixing all those income streams from everything through all those name changes and having to prove, I mean, in his case, it was his name's fine, but in a name, if you did pick aliases that had nothing to do with anything, like he was saying, like if you just made up random names and, started releasing things and then you decide to change names a couple of years later because it wasn't catching traction, but then something old catches traction. Now, you have no connection to it anymore, so it's just way simpler if it is, if you do keep things, unless there's a reason to hide your identity, then you should basically be, putting your name all over that.
Well, I think his thoughts on AI reasons, the most common right now, those getting involved in AI based music, and you're now getting into this situation where you got people who are using names and identities to do this with AI, and then there's real artists trying to use names and identities where there's going to be conflict there.
For sure. It's going to get messy.
Yeah. And if you are doing AI material and you're pushing it to these Spotify's and these platforms and you're using pros as a professional writer, and you're giving yourself writer's credit while you're also utilizing AI, it's a tightrope right now. Until it does get sorted out, you might want to be careful how your musical identity and experimenting with AI, if you're going to actually try to make money off of it and put it out there that way, it's a slippery slope until they sort it out.
And I can say that, I can see why people would try to strike while the iron's hot there. Like as far as the, it hasn't been legislated out or what have you yet. They're still unsure how to proceed. So this is where, if they're going to try to capitalize on it, this would be the time. But again, to me, it's just more about, keeping your ducks in a row and making sure that, when your stuff hits big, it does link back to you undeniably.
If you really are taking yourself serious as a musician in a music career, all of this advice should be seriously considered.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and he's definitely talking about this AI stuff. He's got quite a few here. I will be back. We're doing the AI all year, Zigzag, and at Zigzag Production Studio. You freshie.
Yes, indeed.
And another one, this is Muse Formation, which I like the idea of information in music.
Oh, yeah.
At Muse Formation. And for this one, it gets to the crux of you're going to start out, you need to come up with a name, whether it's a band name or you're just coming out as an artist, different considerations, depending on what you're trying to name. But still want to come up with a cool one.
Exactly. And a unique one if possible.
Yep. So how to choose a music artist brand name the right way. Stage name marketing, which is pretty much what we're talking about tonight, is stage name marketing.
All right.
Let's be honest. Making a great song is obviously the greatest marketing tool, but one of the things that can help it spread or even discourage it from spreading is having a great name that you go by to promote your music. I mean, let's get real here. My favorite band is the 1975, and I did a full body cringe over having to like a band who sounds more like the 1985, 95, or 2005 for that matter, and had a name this corny, but eventually I was won over and walk around town with their merch now on. But the inverse is also true, in that the right name can create curiosity. I mean, the first time I heard the name, And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead, I thought, I gotta hear what that sounds like. And they definitely got me as a fan for years, who bought a lot of stuff from them out of that initial curiosity. So in this video, we're going to discuss the dynamics of how to name yourself properly and make sure it does your music favors when you're promoting it. Hi, I'm Jesse Cannon, a music marketing nerd who's teaching musicians how to grow their fan base from 0 to 10,000 fans, and this is Musformation. Sometimes you need to make a video that tons of people ask for, since this is the most requested topic I get now, but I know it's going to make my life a living fucking hell. I spent so much time over the last 20 years debating this subject with people, and I know it makes people so angry. Since if I make any point about the name that they use being flawed, they have so much hard work embedded in that name, and it seems to really anger them when they are confronted with the bad decision they've made and lash out at anyone who points it out. So if you've already named your music project and are worried it may be flawed, I urge you to please take 3 deep breaths before watching this and 30 deep breaths before you flame me in the comments, since trust me, Chief, I've been roasting people in the chat since 1994, and you don't want to step to this internet tough guy's dunks. So why is a good name important? Well, let's first say this. It really could suck to change your name. Trying to spread the news your name changed is hell. Never mind switching over Spotify profiles or social media can be a nightmare of the biggest proportions. So the key is we only want to do this one time and name yourself properly the first time. If you ask anyone who is in a popular band and then they have to go do something new, ask them how easy they thought it was going to be and then how much it sucked to switch that name over. It's not fun, so we want to take it seriously that you get this as right as soon as possible before you have to tell a lot of people your name changed and lose a ton of the progress you already worked for. Okay, but so what's in a name? So I asked my friends in Facebook group, which, you know, there's a link to join below if you want to be a part of the best community on Facebook discussing music promotion. And it reaffirmed what I've been saying about this subject for as long as I can remember. What I think matters most in a name is that it emotionally matches your sound. Meaning it could be really weird to name your Playboy Cardi type rapping self the inquisitive one, when you're just going to spout a bunch of ridiculous ignorant stuff or like death metal. As well, we have to consider this. Every set of words or combination of them have some sort of emotional imagery that brings to mind something in most people's eyes. And it tends to help the lure of your music if they work in harmony with the emotion of the music that you make. I think there is ways to go outside this though. For example, I think no one had any idea what Blink-182 sounded unless someone gave them a hint before they got popular and people heard what they sounded like. But conversely, there's some immediate favors using genre tropes can have, such as emotional rappers who use Lil, or in the 2000s when every it band had a the before their name, which really makes me wonder if they were it bands, why didn't they just have a it instead of a the before their name? Yes, the downfall of using the tropes of the genre for your name is you can be thought of as generic, but if you prove that you're a cut above the rest, it doesn't matter that your name is generic, as you'll soon be seen as a calling card for that genre. Furthermore, I think you could find a lot of exceptions to this, but if we're talking about rules instead of exceptions, more than anything else, a name that gives a cue to the music's emotion is helpful, and that's not to say you'll be boxed in by that name. You could argue Radiohead sounds quite different from their song Creep to Idiotique or Burn the Witch, but all of them seem to fit well under that moniker. We want a name that people will be able to remember and then be able to find you when someone tells them about it. So let's then think about music discovery. What do people do when they get home and somebody's told them about an artist they want to listen to? Odds are they type it into YouTube, Google, or Spotify. But if your name is something like Brackens, shit, I listen to this dog's record all the time, but if one of my friends told me to check it out, I'd have no clue how to spell it out with how they are saying it. And this one's not even half as bad as many other people. That goes for Glaive 2, who made my favorite EP of 2020. Never mind those days when all the emo bands named themselves after girls' names or towns' names like Madison or Hawthorne Heights, and then if you Googled them, the town would come up since they had no shot at having good SEO. But let me say this is just one of those things that will make it easy, is if people can easily look up your name. But if you're losing 1 out of every 10 or 20 people and they don't find you when they look you up, that does add up and makes things really hard if you're trying to build a fan base. But if you're really good, this won't matter. I mean, Hawthorne Heights sold millions of records, and Brackens, or whatever the fuck his name is, has 700,000 monthly listeners. So it's not the end of the world. But it does help to not have these issues and make it easy to look up your name. Since if you are losing 3 to 5% of the people who discover you, that adds up, making things much more difficult for you to build a fan base. Anyway, so you want a name that people have a fighting chance of finding easily if they go and type it in when they get home or when their friend tells them about it. But now let's make it really annoying. In addition to it needing to be able to be typed into a search bubble, what's really taking over now is voice search. And I guarantee you in about 5 years, more than half the times someone goes to look up a new artist, they're going to be doing it by saying something like, "Hey, Ananamalisa, play me the latest Incel Hypebeast joint." And if Ananamalisa, Alexa, or Siri, or whoever can't recognize that because your name is something like Caffeine with a K and someone else has caffeine, well, you're going to have a harder time getting a fan base. Never mind if you have one of those names that no one knows how to pronounce. Like, God forbid, Kamala, I got it. Kamala Harris drops the hottest jam of summer 2021. Since the amount of ways I see the second most powerful woman in the world's name pronounced wrong is equal to how many people I see who are wrong that teasers are the good way to promote their music. Pa-ching. But what is actually very important, unlike those last two, or just nice to have, is that someone else isn't already using that name. Like, seriously, I know so many people fall in love with a name and see some total fuckboy using the name, and then it becomes some alpha thing of they have 100 monthly listeners, and when I drop my next single drops, I'll blow them out of the water, and they will cry to their mom, "I made them look so stupid," and then they'll tell their mother and she'll suggest they quit music, and then I'll have that name. There's actually laws around this, and so many groups who are huge have had to change their name because some stubborn person absolutely refuses to take a payout when the bigger artist offers them to, because they just want to keep that name because they feel it's a part of their identity and they don't want somebody to show them up. And even if only 90 people bought their CD 7 years ago, if they're still playing live at the local bar, they may want to keep it and you're shit out of luck. And yes, to keep it real, if you sign to a big label or manager, their lawyers are often good at bullying the people who use that name to shut up. I mean, take it from a guy who managed groups named Man Overboard in Transit, and think of how many groups we needed to send cease and desist letters to when they blew up. But if you really want to spend the time building up a fan base and the potential loss of fans to do this, the answer is no. Trust me. It's no. So what do you do to make sure you don't have to endure the torture of some dude who wears Supreme and raps about Hulu docs having the name you love? Well, in the corporate world, they do what is called a knockdown search. And you may ask, why are corporations talking about knockouts? Well, dear viewer, that's because if you don't do this search, all of your hard work can get knocked out and you will struggle to get back up and recover if you don't do it first. And if you didn't do this already, you can't blame yourself. No one told you you needed to do it. And even people who should know better, like Lady Antebellum, did it when they finally realized that their name was pretty damn problematic. And like a bunch of fools, they changed their name to a person of colors that was already established. And then they done goofed even harder, and consequences will never be the same. What is it they say about top 40 country music rots your brain? Oh, right. What were they thinking? So to do a knockout search, it's pretty simple, and you don't need to be a lawyer at a big company to do it. Simply search your desired name on social media, then the streaming sites, including Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, AllMusic, and then Google it and type music after your desired name. If all looks clear, we're almost there. Now let me give you some advice every music manager will give you. After all is clear on that front, Now you want to check that you could have the same @ handle on every social media site. This is because it makes it so much easier to promote if you have one @ handle and URL for everything, which is why whenever I start anything, whether it's a musical endeavor or a business I use, I make sure to use name.chk, which can check virtually every screen name to see if it's free. And that's linked below in the description, FYI, if you need a link. Then if we want to go even deeper on what's in a good name, you want to anticipate search behavior because, like I said, it makes it harder for you to grow, and we might as well get this right if you're naming yourself. Let's take the group Joan. This is not an easy one to come up on social media or Spotify. I mean, look at what happens when I type in their name. You want to make sure it's going to be easy to find you since you do yourself all the favors in the world and make it as easy as possible growing your fan base if you come up high in search. And yet again, I want to make it clear that this stuff simply helps and it won't end your career, as Joan has nearly 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and they seem to be doing just fine to have people digging a little deeper to find them. But that said, that could be 1,100,000 if this was a bit easier. So you do want to consider it. So let's boil this down to what's in a good name, since I think we should string all this together. You want to make sure no one else is using that name first, and most importantly, it should be easily searchable on voice or in search by typing, and most of all, emotionally complementary to what your music is trying to do. Now, I know you have tons of questions if you're watching this video, like what if someone isn't active has the same name, or someone who hasn't used that name in 10 years is squatting it? Or what if your name is Billy Joel? Well, in that case, dog, I have really bad news for you. But in the follow-up video of this, I'm going to get a lawyer to come on and answer some of these questions. And while I do own a lot of cheap suits and know how to argue really well, I am not a lawyer. So I'm not going to answer the questions like whether you need a copyright or trademark and what goes into all of that. So I will get one to give you good advice. I just need to know your questions. So please hit me with them below in the comments. And if I already made that video, it should be up on the screen right now in the end screen. So click it. Otherwise, click on one of my many videos on how to grow your fan base from 0 to 10,000 fans. That's also linked right now. And be sure to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Damn, I'm glad my name's not Billy Joel.
Yeah, exactly.
Good advice, Jesse. Solid all the way through. It's funny how the challenge of coming up with a name has changed with the internet. Like a lot of the advice he gives here is what you have to consider nowadays. In the old days, it was just like, come up with a name that sounds cool, that so hopefully represents your sound in some way. So yeah, Blink 182 had no idea what it was going to sound like until I hit play.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's important to like keep that, keep the brand in mind in terms of, things that are emotionally complementary to your style. Like you were saying, that is something that matches the band name or project should evoke the emotion that you're trying to go for.
It's nice if it does. It helps to actually attract fans that are the low hanging fruit fans. Like all they need is a nudge and I love sci-fi. If that's in the like name, then
the nerdier the better. Yeah.
yeah. And when it comes to the whole like social media marketing aspect there, easy to spell, short. It's like coming up with a .com name or,
and that should be part of the thought also. Having, if your mothership can be named the same as your band name or your project name, that also helps a lot, like they're saying.
The quicker you consolidate all the platforms you're hitting into the mothership, the easier it starts to get to actually have different platforms.
Exactly.
As a musician, you're gonna have to hit at least a couple of platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Facebook. I hate to admit, but
but that's where that name check is helpful, because it looks like that does check a whole bunch of sites for you. So
yes, that I am definitely going to be checking.
Exactly.
Very useful and useful information, Jesse. Good addition to our music talk, Muse Formation.
That's right.
So another killer channel for advice. I mean, we're getting solid advice across multiple channels tonight. Damian Keys is one we've gone to for different topics. And when it comes to promotion and marketing and how to really get yourself out there as a professional musician, this channel rocks. At Damian Keys, and he's going to talk about, if you got that name and you want to make sure it sticks, how to trademark your brand name, your band name and logo. Although band, same thing.
Yeah. And logo is good to think about as well. Yeah, for sure.
Logo is the other reason why Van Halen kicked ass. Not only were they genius to, like, you got a cool last name, but the logo was, I used to draw it in school.
Yeah, exactly.
And Motley Crue's.
Oh, yeah.
So, Damien, give us that wisdom on trademark and brand of a band.
Here.
Hello, Live Nation.
Hi, yes, I formed a new band and I'd like a slot on that new festival.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Amazing, brilliant, yeah. The band name?
Yeah.
Yes, it's Metallica.
Nice try, mate. That's not going to work.
Why not? So, you spend years releasing music and building your name only to get an email and find out the name that you've been using wasn't quite as yours as you once thought. That is, unless you've trademarked it. Hang on. I can smell some full-on geekery. It's time to talk trademark law. So what is a trademark? A trademark is a way of legally claiming your name and your logo. So they are legally yours and no one else can use them to misappropriate your music. Now, just because you got there first and you have the socials and you have the domain name, that doesn't mean that they are legally yours. Whilst you are still using them, this is about ownership. And that's where the trademark comes in. Now, this means you can trademark the name if you're an artist or a band, but also you can trademark your logo. So if you've got an amazing logo or an amazing band name, no one else can use it. Let's say you're Rage Against the Machine or the Grateful Dead or Coldplay. Nobody else can legally claim that name. And let's face it, that's not the real reason why no one's claiming the name Coldplay. In 1998, one of the Beach Boys, Mike Love, acquired sole licensing rights to the name The Beach Boys. Now, even though other members of the Beach Boys were still alive, they didn't see eye to eye. Al Jardine, one of the other Beach Boys, was touring under the name Al Jardine of the Beach Boys. And Brian Wilson had just released another album which was called Smile, Unreleased Works by the Beach Boys. The issue with this is they didn't own the rights to the name The Beach Boys, so anything that they did was misappropriating the name The Beach Boys, even though Brian Wilson, one of the main members of the Beach Boys, was releasing music by the Beach Boys. Crazy. And this is why ownership is so important and why you need a trademark. Imagine this. You've just built an awesome house and it is looking sick. Inside, you have kitted it out. You've even got those taps where the water like comes over the top. Amazing. And then someone comes along, turfs you out, knocks your house down and says, this is not your land. You have no right to build this house. Guys, quick interruption. You're clearly releasing music and serious about getting results. So have you checked out DK Music Business Academy? It's got over 50 hours worth of courses, including the Roadmap to 1 Million Streams course. On top of that, you've got live sessions with me every single week and a community of like-minded musicians from all over the world. And as well as that, there's even my playlisting tool, Sonar, where you can get in touch with playlist curators when you're releasing music. What have you got to lose? 7-day free trial, links in the description. Let's crack on with the video. So when should you trademark? Now, this is where you have to be clever because it does cost money to trademark. Not only do you have to trademark the name, potentially you're trademarking the logo, but also in different areas, which we'll come to in a minute. So we need to be clever and not just trademark from the start only to waste money. But the right time for me is when you have income and outgoing. Let's say you're bringing money in from streams, from regular gigs or tours, maybe some merch. At this point, you are a bona fide business. Now, a business doesn't mean you have a trademark, but if you have a business, then you need a business bank account. If you have a business bank account, you're going to be paying taxes, at which point this is the time that you should think about having a trademark. So then comes the $1 million question.
How did Coldplay get so big? Sheer luck. comically bad music. I'm the quizmaster, and even I don't know. It's B. The answer is B.
No, that's not the question. The question is, how do you trademark? Well, first, you have to do a search to make sure that no one else has that name, because if they do, you can't trademark it. So once you've discovered that the trademark is available, at which point you need to decide who is going to own this trademark. Could be yourself if you're an artist, or it could be one person, two people, or all of a band. Now, what's really important is that this is agreed with, because people will leave a band, people will join a band, but ownership is forever. So whoever owns that
trademark
can literally put a stop to everything that happens from that point onwards with that band. Next, you need to decide where the trademark will be, because every territory needs its own trademark. So I happen to be in the UK right now, so if I trademark the name Grandad's Belly Button Fluff Extractors, I'd be an idiot. But also, it means I haven't trademarked it in Germany or Australia or America. So if Grandad's Belly Button Fluff Extractors exists in America with an American trademark, they're fine. It means I can't step on their toes and they can't step on my toes. And lastly, you need to decide on the category that your trademark will fit in. This is where it gets complicated, because there's different trademarks for things like education or entertainment or merchandise, as in clothing, and so you need to buy a trademark for each of the categories that you're going to fit in. This is where it starts to get quite expensive. Trademarking in your country will cost a different amount depending on where you live, but let's take the US as an example. It costs around $350 to trademark your name and $350 to trademark your logo. Now, if you want to trademark your name and your logo in entertainment, but you also want to trademark your name and your logo in merch or apparel, then all of a sudden, you're not talking about a $350 across the board payment. You're talking about 4 lots. And if you start looking into different countries, all of a sudden it gets more and more expensive. Now, there are a few ways of doing this. It usually takes around 18 months to trademark a name and a logo. You can do this yourself with some painstaking Google searching and form filling, or you can hire a lawyer. In fact, I do believe that if you are outside of the US trying to fulfill a trademark in the US, I think you do need a lawyer anyway, legally, but you can do a lot of this yourself depending on what you want to trademark. So in summary, we have to be protective over the brand that you are building, that someone can't come and steal it or knock it down. But at the same point, we also have to be mindful that it's quite expensive, so the timing is right. In fact, a lot of major artists didn't even start trademarking until 6 months after their debut album, at which point they were like, okay, this is making some money, we really need to protect this. But as this can get quite expensive, my advice is make sure you are onto a winner, because this is about priorities. And if you are going to invest $1,000 into a trademark, think of what you could do with that $1,000 should this be about music promo, to make sure that you can get your name out there first, get some money in, and use that money to then build your trademark. So there you go. That's everything you need to know about trademarking your name and logo around the world. And if you are serious about your music career, why not come and check out DK Music Business Academy? The link is in the description below. There's over 50 hours worth of courses and information like this that you need if you're going to have a career as a musician and as an artist releasing music. On top of that, there's live sessions. There's also a community of amazing musicians from all around the world, just like yourself. And there's Sonar, which is a database of playlisters that you can get in touch with. No brainer, 7-day free trial. Come and join us in DKMB. Otherwise, do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you again soon.
Oh, damn it, Glenn. We're going to have to trademark that belly button fluffer before someone else does.
Granddad's Belly Button Fluff Extractors.com. Yes.
And I think his main point there was when to consider trademarking, when there is revenue. That is, like you said, the moment you are making a business or making money, taxman, you have to explain things. Then I guess you should trademark. And lawyers, there's different kinds out there. Trademark lawyers are specialty lawyers. You kind of want to go with the ones who it's their business.
Yep. Now, a lot of the people that we talk to also, I mean, they have a primary career as well as having music that they like to do, right? So in some cases they do have an income stream coming in, so the investment of getting their music getting their trademarks in isn't as big a deal. Other people, they're trying to make the music and make the money from the music pay for the trademark and all of that. So that's where the ones that are making it big and getting 6 months after that first release, they're actually getting, some serious money coming in and then making it happen. But those who can, it's a good idea to try to get that groundwork laid early, because again, you're trying to build everything up, and before you explode big, if you come to a name that is unique and that you own, exclusively, and that you can get trademarked and logo and all that, you get all that done right off the bat, and you're way better off. So
yeah. Going to like the different naming scenarios we're talking about tonight, whether it's your actual name, your artist name, your band name, and yeah, if you're named Metallica and you're calling and saying like, we're playing there tonight, if you don't sound like Kirk or James, then they're not going to believe you.
You're in trouble.
You definitely want to distinguish yourself this way and protect as a trademark if you do build up a career.
Exactly.
Yeah. And DamianKeys.com, he's got a mothership, and it's a good one. And at Damian Keys over on YouTube. Again, great advice. We're on a roll.
Yeah, exactly.
And for our final, this is about if you are going to change your name and go through the hell of rebranding yourself, resetting up your social medias and at names consistently, all that work that goes into that. Maha needed 3 months of meditation after doing it.
Takes a lot to recover.
Yeah. And this one's coming from a music channel, which is nice to add too, at LLYNKS, Links, with 2 L's. And she's got a mothership too, linksmusic.com. And I'm going to check out your songs after this. But this video, I did want to hear from someone who's gone through this hell. And given what we've seen as far as deciding on a name and then actually protecting it, and you might get sued, according to Crystal, if you are the Beatles and you're not the Beatles.
Yeah. And I like the approach on the name for Links as well. The double L at the beginning, but it's easy to describe. Links with a double L. That easy to tell somebody. And yeah.
Yeah, well, what did they say? Caffeine with a K, which
sure.
Of course somebody's thought of that by now.
Exactly.
But I do like that, Links. So she's gonna let you know if you want to change your artist name. Here's advice from someone who did, and you should consider that before you make the initial name. Otherwise, you may go through the same situation here.
Yes, indeed.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Links. Today I wanted to talk about what happened when I changed my artist name across all streaming platforms. I changed my artist name from Sarah Kendall to Links. Some of the things that resulted because of that choice that I made. Wanted to go over the thought process that I had and bring you over to my Spotify analytics again to show you very factually what ended up changing for me. The difference between my Sarah Kendall analytics and my Links analytics being the same person, just how things change once you switch your name. For those of you that don't know, I was making music under the name Sarah Kendall for about 6 years before I made the switch to be under Links this year. So my Spotify analytics and actually my analytics all across the board are very different between the two projects. Just want to show you what you're in for if you do end up changing your name and the good things and the bad things that can result in this decision. So if you're looking to change your artist name, it's a little bit more complicated than you might think. I did try and change my artist name through DistroKid, that's my distribution service, but they actually have a message saying that you cannot change it. I ended up making a completely new project and a completely new artist. So because I did it this way, I do have to start over and build my audience from scratch again, but I also don't lose any progress that I made under Sarah Kendall. So if I were to have just switched my artist name, probably if I had asked DistroKid, I could do it, but what would happen is I would lose all of my followers under Sarah Kendall. I have 2.8 thousand followers under Sarah Kendall. I definitely didn't want to do that. And instead, what I decided to do was, of course, just make a new page. I haven't lost any of the followers that I gained under Sarah Kendall, and instead I'm trying to cross-pollinate them. So whenever I have a new links release, I will use the artist pick option on Spotify for artists to recommend my new links releases. Now, I don't plan on releasing stuff under Sarah Kendall anymore, but this gives me the option if I ever wanted to. I already have an audience waiting for me under that project. I'm just gonna bring you on over to my Spotify analytics now. Before we get into it, like and subscribe if you want to keep updated on my videos. My goal is to just be as transparent as I can with this whole process in starting a whole new project this year and what I'm doing to just try to get it off the ground and running. So I started the Sarah Kendall project back in 2015. As we can see here, we just didn't ever, wow. Oh my goodness, interesting. So for the first year, I got up to 12 followers. This is so funny. Well, at least I could say I'm growing faster under links then. Then I don't know what happened here. Clearly something happened in 2016 where I randomly got up to 302. I'm now at 2.8 thousand. If I had just changed this to links, I would of course have all the same play counts, but I would have lost all those followers. And I just don't want to do that, especially because it clearly has taken me 5 years to get up to this number. I still want to try and cross-pollinate my audience. If you guys have any recommendations for that, please let me know. Still have hope that I can bring some of these people over to my new project. For comparison, I know I just made one of these videos last week, so you can see what has happened. I have 311 followers on links. So clearly, I don't know what the math is, but barely anybody has converted over to my links page from Sarah Kendall. So, but the option is still there. Yes, the projects would have been conjoined, but I would be very afraid that my Sarah Kendall listeners wouldn't be able to find the music that they like because it'd be under a completely new name under links. So instead, what I did was I changed all my socials to links music instead of Sarah Kendall's. Everyone on my Instagram who follows me and is engaged knows that I had made this switch. Other than that, I made a new Twitter account, I made a new YouTube account. All of that has been really hard to grow back. I think my YouTube account had over 2,000 subscribers and my links has about 375 or something. So yeah, it's definitely been hard to build up these audiences again, but again, I still do have everything kind of still set up under Sarah Kendall. If you didn't have many followers to start off with, I would say go for it. You might as well just change your artist name. You most likely won't lose any of your play counts, but you'll lose your followers. So I didn't want to risk losing that if I could potentially cross-pollinate them. I started using Facebook ads. I know I talked about this, briefly in my last video. Since I started using that, I think I was at 262 in my last video. It's been a week? And now I'm at 311. Clearly the growth is happening a lot faster. And what this has taught me is that, under Sarah Kendall on my YouTube channel, I only had posted 2 music videos and covers. I think I had a total of 10 videos in total over the 7 years that I had been uploading, which I clearly just did 1 or 2 a year. I didn't upload as much and I didn't release music as much, and switching my name and really having to work hard at building up my audience again. It's just taught me that I really need to work that much harder to build up my audience again, basically. Uploading YouTube videos every week. I'm using these Facebook ads and the growth is already happening a lot faster. Just being way more active on my social media accounts. It's up to you to make the choice. It sucks that I didn't use the name links from the start, but I empathize with you if you have changed your name after building somewhat of a following under another name. But what can I do? I had made the decision and the only choice I have is to just move forward with this decision and to do the best I can. Because I didn't switch my name, I still have that other account. If anything ever happened with links or whatever, I now have 2 accounts that I could potentially release music under. So 311 followers now. My streams since I've been running the ads have just been going up, now up to like 549. So that's great. My listeners are pretty much staying the same. So we'll see how I can change that. But in general, we're trying. I was also at like 2,050 monthly listeners last week, and now I'm at 2,150. So it's gonna be annoying to grow everything back up, but at least I have like way more of a will to do it now. And just like work super, super hard and to make this happen for me. If you're thinking of changing your artist name, I would just bear these things in mind. It's not easy to make the decision I made and to go through with it, but if it matters as much to you as it mattered to me, then, you know, I would make just a whole new artist project. On DistroKid, you can have 2 artist projects under the Musicians Plus plan, and it's not too much more than just the basic plan. The other option you have is to just change it. Streaming services, they really don't want you to change your artist name because it's something with the metadata. Maybe this is something that will change in the future. If you've already built up somewhat of a following under one artist name, it would be really hard to just let all of that go. So I recommend keeping your page and using that page to cross-pollinate with your new music and your new page. Another thing I did is I made a playlist that includes both my Sarah Kendall and Link's project, and I included that on both of my artist playlist tabs, so when people find it, they will hopefully make the connection that these are the same people. And I also titled it, these are both of my projects all in one playlist. And I've done my best on my old YouTube channel, which is still up. You can check out my old project, Sarah Kendall. It's still up there. I'm not gonna ever delete it. It obviously has way more subscribers than this channel does. I put a video up there to say that I had made this new channel, so you just have to put in the work to notify people that you do have a new artist project. So all in all, it sucks. It's a really shitty thing to have to go through, but I'm happy that I am not going by my legal name anymore, honestly. It does suck that I didn't make this decision from the start, but you know, I'm working that much harder to like get this project going because of it. I'm happy to talk with you guys. You know, you can always send me a DM on Instagram, comment on this video. If you're not sure if you want to change your artist name, you're confused what's going to happen, just let me know and I will just share with you more of my experience and give you advice because I've gone through it too. I hope this was helpful if you are going through this. Like and subscribe if you want to keep updated on my videos. I'm posting one a week. If you're going through a similar thing, I'm here, I feel you, I hear you, and we're gonna get through this. That's why I'm making these videos. So have a good week and I'll see you next time.
Oh, I hear you too, Sarah.
Good reasons.
Well, and she's got a good attitude about it. She's yes, some of it does suck. I understand everything we were talking about tonight, like about like whether you use your real name, whether you use your artist name. In the case of like a YouTube channel and how I have seen YouTubers who do have like their personal YouTube channel and their persona YouTube channel as a theme or as an artist, different topics for the channel. It's not just like music artists that have to deal with these kinds of migrations. What do you call it? Cross-pollinating, which
Cross-pollinating, yeah.
is a good way to think about it, like migrating an audience you have from here to here, especially in this case where I just don't want to use my personal name to put out my professional material. Being able to migrate that following, there's got to be services out there for that. You probably got to pay out your ass to get that kind of attention, to make sure that all your fans do move.
Yeah, and it would probably be something that would, you know, essentially use, you know, bots to you know, send messages or to, you know, send the word essentially out on a grapevine, you know, to get, you know, to get the people that you're looking for directed to the right.
It becomes marketing, and the approach she's taking, which is just to kind of let her fans, marketing for yourself first is how you migrate some of those followers.
Yeah, and one thing that you could also do is release something on the old account name, and something in the song title is about the new name also, like so that it's a new release over here to get all those fans interested and pointed there directly, in that way.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing she mentioned about like when she was doing this transition, she wasn't as active musically during that time period. Where if you're building like a new presence on something like YouTube and you're not currently active, it can be tricky to like start from scratch when you don't have any material at the moment.
Exactly. So that's why it's good to get the material going.
If you are going to do this kind of thing, you really want to do it when, like, wow, we got a whole bunch of stuff coming. Now is a good time to build a new presence on YouTube.
Yeah, and in a lot of cases, they would even recommend not releasing it all at once. Even sometimes they would say, okay, a couple tracks to as a teaser, and then like tracks little by little over time, and then as a whole thing at the end. You could do it a couple different ways.
Yeah, yeah. How you build it up and get those initial subscribers that turn into multiples. Good word of mouth is still the best advertising. If anything, it's more effective now than ever when it goes viral.
Exactly. That's all it takes.
Yeah. I'm glad I got that one in with everything we looked at tonight as far as deciding on a name. I felt this was a good testimonial on the perils of like you started out as an artist this way with your name. Just most of us, that's kind of how I did it too. And I've separated the Tony Dumont side of me from the Talkin Shhh I.T side, and it's awesome.
Yes, indeed. It's the way to do it.
Yeah, I get to do a lot more on this YouTube.
Because you can talk all kinds of shh.
It's fun. At LLYNKS. Links with 2 L's, as Glenn would say.
Good stuff.
And she got a mothership too, linksmusic.com.
And had the data to back up the story. Yep.
Yeah, I'll be checking out those songs, Sarah. Because we love music here.
Yes.
My day job is to listen to music.
Exactly. Listen to music and sometimes make it even better.
My night job is making it. We're trying to.
Coming up with new ideas is a big part of that. So creativity, always feed your creativity and stay creative and stay curious. That's important.
Yeah. And what you're going to name yourself when you're being creative was what it was all about tonight.
We can do a thing on logo design sometime just for fun. Get into the whole graphic stuff.
Like, I was a graphic artist forever.
Exactly.
Definitely want to do a graphic night.
Like, to me, the whole thing is like focusing on simplicity, like something that evokes the idea that you're looking for, but it's very simplistic in its design,
Yeah. And can I turn it into a 3D video after?
Exactly. Good stuff.
Yeah. So we'll be back next Thursday, and with Wally on Monday. We've also got some other things cooking. Oh man, Angie's really on fire for this summer. So stay tuned because we're gonna have some fun. Yeah,
new stuff. Join us.
We'll see you in a new place next week.
That's right. New studio, probably.
Yeah, can't wait to see the Pink Floyd poster in a bigger room.
Exactly. And that's the question is, if the internet will handle it. So we're going to find that out over the next week.
Well, if you need to do any testing when you're over there, send me a shout.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
I can use that bandwidth up.
That's right. I still have to get a lot more stuff moved over because it doesn't look like I've done anything yet when I look around here, but I have done a lot so far and I have a lot of time left to do the rest. So
yeah, you got mom settled in. So
she's all settled today. So beautiful. Got that part all done. And she's happy.
We'll be settling with you next Thursday.
That's right. And we'll see you all day.
Night, everyone.
See you.
We cover digital, audio, workstations, and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to weigh and compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac, and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin' IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat-making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking